Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, then hi, my name is Erica, and today I'm going to talk a bit about the idea that Miranda Sings was inspired by Trent Ballinger and people with speech impairments and intellectual disabilities. So if you don't know, on the Do We Know Them podcast, Johnny Silvestri, who has worked with Colleen Ballinger and who has spoken out against her, alleged that Colleen said that even though she based the character of Miranda on people in college who thought they were good singers, but they weren't, so she was kind of poking fun at them, she also based many of Miranda's characteristics later on her brother Trent. And if you don't know, her brother Trent is deaf and has some paralysis, I believe, and Colleen says he has tantrums, and so she would study his tantrums and base Miranda's meltdowns on Trent. Now, as a disabled person, I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Spewed about you, especially hearing now that Colleen bases a lot of Miranda's traits off of him.
Oh, has that come out as...
Well, I mean,
I know she has based it off of someone that is not all mentally there.
Yeah,
but...
well, it's Trent. I mean, she said it to my face, so that's a conversation I've had.
She's told
me that. She's told fans that on Tiny Chat. She's said it. She says, her words, not mine, that when Trent has tantrums, I like to study them and take mental notes so that I can incorporate them in Miranda's act, her characteristics, the way she talks. If you see a Miranda video where she's upset, visibly angry, and having an episode, she's mocking her own brother.
I don't, like, the fact that there are so many layers to this situation on why it's wrong.
First of all, making fun of disabled people and monetizing you making fun of disabled people is really shitty. I think that should go without saying, that monetizing making fun of anybody is shitty, but especially when you're doing it to a marginalized group, it's shitty. But also the idea that Colleen would observe her brother to get like ideas and use him as her twisted muse is disgusting. Disabled people are not a zoo attraction at the zoo. You don't get to just observe us and be like, oh, look at disabled people in their natural habitat. How interesting. That's a really fucked up and othering thing to do, especially when disabled people are already othered by society. And I think a lot of why Colleen has not been called out for this is particularly because she picked the disabled community to mock. And I think part of it is because ableism is still not taken seriously, and disabled are still the butt of a lot of people's jokes. And that needs to stop. As a disabled person, I've been made fun of my whole life. I'm made fun of on YouTube all the time. I get comments about my stutter and people not being able to understand me and how it gives them anxiety to hear me talk. How do you think that makes me feel? Let me give you a hint. Not very good. But I'm also an adult and I'm choosing to be on the internet, but I still should not be subjected to ableism constantly. I also just want to talk about this because I didn't love how they talked about this on the podcast. I understand that this isn't as salacious as the grooming allegations or any of that, but I still feel like it should have been given more time and been called what it is, which is ableist. I think when we just frame ableism as being mean, it kind of downplays it, when ableism is a form of bigotry and it is used to oppress disabled people. And when we do not call out ableism and we do not use that term, then we're making it seem like it's just bullying, when really this goes into ableism is not just saying shitty things to disabled people. It is also us not being able to be employed because of discrimination. It's also hate crimes, and also disabled people are more likely to face domestic abuse and violence. And that is why ableism needs to be talked about. I'm not saying that I'm not saying the host or Johnny were flippant about this, but I do wish they had said this is ableist and this is why it's wrong. I'm not trying to cancel anybody or be like, oh, they're terrible people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying I really wish they had done that, because ultimately they have a much bigger platform than me and most disabled people, because I can't get that big of a platform because of the way I talk. People don't want to listen to me, but they will listen to people that speak normally.
I just think it's stupid for people to comment on that shit when you don't, like, do you have someone disabled in your life? Do you even understand that you cannot judge someone?
I also just want to say that I didn't love that when Jesse said, anybody who's saying that,
I'm not sure what you want me to change.
Anybody who is saying that Trent Ballinger cannot be held accountable for his actions doesn't have disabled people in their life. And specifically, she put disabled in air quotes. And I kind of got the vibe that she didn't want to use the term disabled, and she thought that was a bad term for this, when disabled tends to be the term that the disabled community accepts and prefers to be called. Of course, there are always individuals that may prefer something else, but I think putting it in air quotes, even if you don't intend to, you're making it like disabled isn't a real community, like there is no disability community, which is obviously not true. There is a disabled community, and not just a disabled, there are many disabled communities. So I do think putting it in air quotes comes across as a little disrespectful, if that makes sense.
What's really telling is one of the screenshots that was posted today is he says something about his rent situation and how he's a little bit upset with his parents that they kind of put him in situations that eliminate a lot of freedom for him because he's only deaf and paralyzed. And I'm like,
oh, so he was like complaining that he gets treated like more disabled than
that's what I
like
was
he has
understanding from this conversation, what seemed to be a very coherent situation between him and a minor at the time. And I've hung out with Trent, and he can process his thoughts. He can have full conversations with you. I don't know. The worst part is I can't imagine how lonely it would be to be deaf and not get to experience normalcy. And I don't say that to be offensive, but just being able to hear and have that quality of life not being stripped from you, That's a privilege, and I can't imagine how isolating it would feel to not have that. However, there is a full community of people out there, adults, who you can go and confide in and build relationships with. You don't have to go to children who don't understand and virtually just stare at them in silence.
He didn't have the
And the last thing I want to cover is this idea that he's sheltered his whole life and he hasn't had access to friendships because of his deafness. Now, obviously, there is a whole deaf community, and not just a deaf community, but deaf communities. But I do think Trent was kind of isolated from these communities. A lot of times when a deaf person is born to hearing parents and most of their family is hearing, they are kind of forced to grow up in this hearing world and not given access to the deaf community. And I do think this might have affected Trent growing up, and it may even have affected him in that he may be socially delayed. But that does not mean he is allowed to groom children and talk to children in sexual ways. Do not get me wrong. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is I do think that it is possible that this did affect him. But I don't want disability or deafness to be portrayed as a tragedy to non-disabled people, because that just, no. And I almost felt like it was becoming that. I feel like enough people aren't talking about the ableism behind the character of Miranda Sings and how Colleen has to think less of disabled people because of the way she does this, and her whole career has been making fun of disabled people. But a lot of us, including myself, have not really been paying attention. I mean, Colleen Ballinger has never been my cup of tea. I've never been a big fan of hers, but I never really realized the whole speech impairment thing. And I myself have a speech impairment, but I didn't realize that because I wasn't really paying attention. And I think we all need to. I was able to get away with this for so long, and I know people are going to be like, well, in 2010 it was okay. It was never okay, trust me. Even in 2010 and stuff, I was speaking out. I mean, my awareness of things and how I framed disability was different, because in 2010 I was I don't even think I was a teenager yet. So my ideas weren't fully fleshed out, but it was still something that deeply hurt me when I saw ableist things back in that time. So let's not pretend it was okay or it didn't hurt people and people now are just more sensitive. No, I'm just more vocal because I'm more empowered, and also I do take a lot of courses that are related to disability, so now I can use technical terms and sound like I'm intelligent even if I'm not. But anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you learned something, and if you did, please give it a big thumbs up because that really helps with the algorithm. And yeah, and if you have not already and you would like to see more of my content, please consider hitting that subscribe button down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.